The Strange Man in the Woods, posted by u/Obi-Wan420. I live in a small town in South Africa. Near my town there is a large patch of woods, and since the outbreak of coronavirus, I haven't been in the woods for a long time. Until yesterday. So my friend called me to ask if I wanted to join him and a few other mates to play a game of paintball in the woods, and obviously I was keen. I got my paintball gear and gun and headed off to my mate's place. There was 6 of us: Chase, Liam, Matt, Joey, Steven and obviously me. We headed off to the woods but made a few stops to fill up on petrol and get some gas for the paintball guns. When we finally got the woods, we parked the cars, got in our gear and ventured out in the forest to find the perfect spot to paintball. Eventually we got deep enough into an area with sufficient cover and space to play a good game of capture the flag. We played a couple of games, and since it's winter, it got dark really quickly, but we planned for this and brought our flashlights and decided to play a couple of night games, which is extremely hard, especially in the forest we were in. During one match, Joey and I decided to sit out because we were both tired and just needed a quick breather, and the others continued to play from a significantly good distance away from us. While we chilling, I was rolling up a joint, yes I'm a pothead, and Joey went to go take a piss a couple of meters away from me. While I was busy rolling, I had the flashlight pointing towards myself since there was no other light to allow me to see what I was doing, and around me, it was completely dark. I couldn't even see 2 meters ahead of myself because of how dark it was. Suddenly I heard footsteps coming my way, but I thought it was Joey, and I soon realized I couldn't see any light from his flashlight, so now I was more vigilant but still relaxed, thinking he is trying to play a prank on me or something. But the footsteps stopped a few meters away from me, so I lifted up my flashlight and pointed it in the direction where I heard the footsteps and scanned the area, but just saw bushes and trees, and I just thought it might be Joey hiding in the bushes or behind a tree waiting to give me a jump scare. Then I heard footsteps coming in the opposite direction, and when I looked, I could see it was Joey because he was holding his flashlight. That's when I stopped what I was doing and picked up my flashlight and paintball gun, and when Joey reached me, I whispered, "Bro, I think there is someone over there," and Joey obviously didn't believe me and just said to me to stop being a baby, but he soon regretted saying that because I decided to do one last scan of where I heard the footsteps, and to my horror, I saw someone peeking and staring right at me from behind a tree probably 10 or 11 meters away from us. I just shouted, "What the actual fuck?" And when Joey heard me say this, he looked at me and then where the man looked and instantly jumped up, picking up his paintball gun also. We stared at each of at least 2 minutes, but it felt like forever until he stepped out from behind the tree. He was a large man, at least 6 feet, was honestly filthy like he hasn't taken a bath in years. He was wearing baggy ripped up jeans and just an old dirty zipped up bomber jacket, plus we could see that he was on something or he was just batshit crazy, and he was holding something behind his back. He finally said, "What are you guys doing out here when it's so dark?" We couldn't even answer him because of the shock we were in. Joey stuttered with fear in his voice, "We were just leaving." But the man nodded his head in disagreement and said, "No you're not, your friends are still playing the game." I felt a shiver down my spine. "How about we play a game of her own while we wait for your friends?" And that is when he finally showed us what he was hiding behind his back, and it was a large machete. That's when I knew we had to get out of there. So I aimed my paintball gun, and in the toughest way I could muster up, I told him, "Leave now or I will shoot," even though I only had about 6 or 7 paintballs loaded, and Joey did the exact same by aiming his gun at the man even though he had no paintballs in his gun, but he didn't even flinch, but did something that honestly made my skin crawl. He just smiled and said, "The game starts now," and suddenly he just rushed at us, so I told Joey to run while I fired my last bullets at him, and luckily I shot him in his head, which caused him to fall, so that I was our chance to book it and link up with our other friends. As soon as we started running, we heard his footsteps again, and he was actually gaining on us again. We could barely see, but we couldn't slow down because we knew what would happen if we did, so we just carried on sprinting our hearts out until we heard other paintball guns being fired, so we knew we're close. Joey started shouting to get everyone's attention, and all of a sudden, I heard a huge thud. Joey tripped and twisted his ankle. I turned around to help him up, and when I did, I could see the man running full sprint towards us. In that moment I thought it was going to be the end for us, but our friends heard our screams for help and rushed to us, and when they saw the man, they just started firing at him, and he knew wasn't going to be able to take us all on, and he decided to turn around and disappear into the forest. We helped Joey up, rushed to get our stuff, and rushed to the cars. When we got to my friend's place, we helped Joey treat his ankle, and I proceeded to tell my friends everything that happened, and they were all creeped out. It's safe to say that the next I'm in those woods, I will be more vigilant. Under the Streetlight, posted by u/King's Apprentice. Hi everyone, I've got this story that has happened to me a dozen years ago that I've added on Let's Not Meet a couple years back but had to cancel my account due to a misunderstanding with fellow Redditors, thus removing the story from Reddit as well. Hopefully, my writing will have improved by all the hours spent reading books in English, and especially lately, from Stephen King, which I'm a big fan of. At the time of events, my brother, my father and I 16/m are road tripping through Nevada and California as my graduation gift. It is the end of August, and after a long trip, coming from Las Vegas, crossing through Los Angeles, and heading north across California, we decide to stay in beautiful Santa Barbara for a few days. My father finds a motel not too far from the beach and we are all in wonder as to the movie-like beauty of the city we are staying in. In the evening of our first night there, being back to the motel shortly after feasting on greasy and savory pizza from Rusty's Pizza Parlor and walking along one of the most beautiful beaches in the USA, I start to get bored in the room. After having watched the television with my father and my brother for about an hour, to change the scenery a bit I decide to peek through our room window. As I kneel on the raspy purple carpeted floor and draw the thick and heavy curtains out, a sense of dread takes hold of my whole being. I'm startled by the thing I see right across the street, about 100 feet from my window. What I'm looking at is at odds with the beautiful picture-like frame created by the motel lobby entrance arch delimiting it from my field of view. A beautiful shadow and light setting created by the streetlight beam on the pavement on the other side of the road reveals this man whose physical traits are hooded by the shadows cast downward by the light. Right under the streetlight, he is standing half in the light, half in the dark of the night, as if in the knowing of the effect the lighting has on him. He looks like he's in his late 20s, early 30s and stares right at me. His gaze like a laser beam I can feel all the way down to my kidneys. I can't see his crazy eyes from this distance, but I can feel them and my subconscious picks up on the intent, which is not good. He seems to have waited for me to look at him for a long time, as if he knew it would happen. He seems to have known, just as you know you will hear thunder after seeing a lightning. A few seconds after he's made aware of my awareness of his presence, still staring at me, he starts in a slow clockwork motion, sliding his index finger sideways across his throat, underneath his jaw from left to right, over and over again. It is as if he silently tells me, "I'll kill you. That's right. I'll kill you. Yes, yes." As the floor beneath me starts to sink and a taste of metal overwhelms the top of my tongue, I close the curtains as quick as if my life depends on it. I then turn my upper body away from the window, toward my father, and tell him what I just saw. He seems to shrug it off and, talking over the baseball game on TV, tells me to let it go. But I can feel, along this calm vibe of arrogant carefreeness coming from him, a hint of uneasiness that I can taste on the back of my mouth. 30 seconds go by and I stupidly kneel uncomfortably again on the motel carpet below the windowsill. After loudly swallowing for luck, against my best judgment, I draw the curtains out a second time, but this time my hands stop at the width of my head, allowing into view just enough of the outside world to be able to grasp at what is happening outside of my seemingly safe motel room. There he is again. Only this time the man is standing 2/3 of the way to where he stood the first time I saw him. His facial traits are now darkened by the lack of a streetlight, but I can still feel his crazy gaze. He is under the motel lobby parking lot arch. There is not much light where he stands, but I can still perceive him doing his throat-slicing gesture. "That's right, I'll kill you," he still communicates to me through his pantomime. There is this desperate feeling of unfair doom in realizing that your poor vulnerable self is the target of something evil that doesn't know you as a being with needs and fears, but knows and wants something from you which you are oblivious to. I'm starting to feel queasy and frightened. I close the curtains quickly once again and tell my dad again of the man's presence and his approaching of the room. I get on the bed, trying to concentrate on the TV to forget what I've just witnessed. I don't remember if my dad looks through the window to confirm what's happening. I remember him telling me to stop looking outside if what I see is scaring me and that we are safe in the room, which is locked. After what seems like a few minutes passing, I peek again for the last time. This time, the man is right in the parking lot, about 50 feet from our motel room, doing his gesture again. I start thinking that the man is probably mentally ill or something and that I better stop looking at the window again. A clever thing to do, I tell myself. The man's behavior, although redundant and pathetic, nonetheless strikes me as being ominous and frightening. The night goes on with that feeling that even if I'm probably safe inside our room, there is this disturbed man missing a few cogs who's got nothing to lose outside the room that behaves as if he wants nothing good from me. As far as I know, he could be leaning right on the window glass a few minutes from now if this keeps going. Would he be grinning or not? Would he raise his arm to gently tap on the window while kneeling under the windowsill? I try not to think about it. I sleep uneasily that night. The following morning, Not wanting to go outside of the room, I decide to stay in with my brother while my father goes in the motel lobby to fetch orange juice, breakfast and to speak to the motel clerk about the man outside. My father comes back after a couple of minutes with our breakfast and tells me that the clerk told him that the guy who frightened me the night before is known in the area for his mental illnesses. He's probably a schizophrenic is what the guy said to my father. My dad then reassures me that the clerk told him the man is not dangerous and that we're safe staying there for another couple of nights. Luckily, I never see the man again for the duration of our stay there. Fast forward a couple of years. My father and I are reminiscing about our trip to California and especially about those days in Santa Barbara. When the mentally ill man threatening me with his finger outside of our motel room is mentioned in the conversation, my father, as if relieved from not having to keep this thing secret anymore, lets out that the morning after that dreadful night, the motel clerk had in fact told him to be careful with the man. He had told him that he was, in fact, dangerous. My dad just didn't want to scare us, telling us the truth. I thanked him for lying to me that morning. And we agreed that luckily, we never saw the man again during our stay there.
Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.